Welcome to an edition of Boxing Info. I'm your host, The Islander, and this is another 2-week hiatus. But the thing is, not too much has been going on. We're going to try to fit quite a bit into this show, and maybe even get an early preview of the June 13th super fight between Cotto and Clottey on HBO. Let me backtrack to what has happened in previous weeks, such as the Friday Night Fights card, in which I had told you I expected Richard Gutierrez to win against Antoine Smith, and couldn't be more wrong, as Antoine Smith routed Gutierrez, and his time as being a contender, a perennial contender, and now over. Smith, bigger, better things for him in the future, for those of you who remember that fight on ESPN from Miami. That same weekend in Mexico, another little bit of a trip up for me, or a shocker. Well, in the first fight, Raphael Marquez fighting as a featherweight against Jose Mendoza looked quite a few steps slow, and it may have been just ring rust, being off for a year, or I really think it's the 3 fights with Raphael Marquez, and that's basically a theme with this section of the show. Is it worth fighting Israel Vasquez? If I said that right previously, if not, that's what I meant to say. And Marquez looked a little bit slow, did score a knockdown, and the fight was stopped under dubious circumstances. Why the referee just took the guy back to his corner instead of asking him if he was okay. It happened in Mexico. I don't know what the circumstances really are, but Marquez was supposed to win, and he won by a 3rd round TKO. The main event, though, Toshiaki Nishioka, the WBC belt holder, while Vasquez's eye is healing, defending against Jhonny Gonzalez, and this was almost like a slam dunk, at least I thought it would be, for Gonzalez, who got off to a hot start. The only problem is he got clipped on the chin in the 3rd round with a straight left hand and went down flat on his back. Barely beat the count, and the referee was in the right by waving the fight over because he was finished. Again, both Jhonny Gonzalez and Raphael Marquez have been in with Israel Vasquez, and they've both been stopped by him. He is beaten on both of them. And I think that for both of them, their best days are behind them. And a lot of people have been asking me questions about, where does Juan Ma fit into this equation? Personally, I think that Juan Manuel Lopez is the best 122-pounder in the world. I think that he will be offered stiff competition from Vasquez, but not enough. He can do enough with his legs and his speed and his southpaw stance to stay away from Vasquez for 12 rounds and get through unscathed. I think that the Caballero variable might change things a little bit, but I really think that Lopez is better than Caballero also. So that's it for that card. This past week on HBO, Kermit Cintron won a unanimous 12-round decision over Alfredo Angulo in a mild up. I wouldn't even say mild upset. The big upset in my mind, because those of you who emailed me, I told you I expected Angulo to stop Cintron down the stretch. And from rounds 9 through 12, it looked like that was going to come true because, I'll give Cintron credit. He fought and maintained a very good fight plan, which was keep circling, never stay in the same spot twice, punch, get out of there, and box. That's what boxing is about, hitting without being hit. It's not very palatable to my eyes, and most of you out there, I'm sure it wasn't. I know there's some of you who love watching Floyd Mayweather shuck and jive and play patty cake. That's not what I watch boxing for. That's not what I've ever paid to see a live fight for. I don't go for that. But in Cintron's best interest, he fought the perfect fight against Angulo. Angulo could hurt him. I think Angulo did hurt him at the end of the fight. Cintron definitely hurt Angulo during the fight, and I think that he deserved this decision. Do I think that he won the fight 8 rounds to 4? Hells no. Do I think, like Harold Letterman thought, that Cintron swept the first 4 rounds? Hells no. I mean, and what really kills me about this is, because I think HBO had a really bad night that night with this, is that Kellerman and Lennox are both saying, that they thought that Angulo had done enough to win at least one of the first 2 rounds anyway. As it got towards the end, Letterman has the fight scored 7 rounds to 5 after he has Cintron sweep in the first 4 rounds. Unbelievably gave Cintron the 12th round, which I don't know what the deal is there. You don't win a fight basically grabbing, hugging, and trying to wrestle the guy or stop, basically smother the guy every time he's coming after you and moving backwards. I'm sorry, it's just no way. But I think he had enough rounds in the bank to maybe win the fight 7-5, like Letterman had it. Just the rounds rearranged a little bit differently, or 6-5 with one even, or whatever you want to slice and dice it. There ain't no way this was a 4-point fight. But I'm glad the judges all saw it the same way. They were there, I wasn't, so what do I know? What this leads us, if I was Cintron, I think I would play his games with somebody like, you know, that Zinzurek guy from, you know, the Ukraine or Germany, wherever he's from, that's promoted in Germany, or play his game with maybe Daniel Santos. I'd stay away from Sergio Martinez, because in my mind, Sergio Martinez had a knockout over him. An 8th round, the 7th or 8th round, knockout. I heard that referee say 10. I'm not going to go into any more about this. The other big thing I have, by the way, turn down your volume now because I'm going to use some bad language. You've been warned, those of you. I should have prefaced this in the beginning. Where the fuck does HBO get off still harping on this Margarito thing? You know, the last time I checked, you know, sulfur, and I don't know what the hell the other thing that they tested was that came out of those hand wraps, are the same damn ingredients that are in onions. I mean, just get off of it, Kellerman. I mean, he normally does I think, a bang-up job, but here you are. Kermit Cintron was never a hot prospect, never a hot fighter, okay? He was in a life-and-death struggle against Teddy Reed, or one of those guys on ESPN, a life-and-death struggle against David Estrada. World-class hot fighters are not in life-and-death struggles with those two guys. I'm sorry. So, him getting beaten down like he did against Margarito didn't need no super-duper hand wraps to do that. It was just the volume of punches that did him in. And especially now, a left hand to the body. I mean, needless to say, I want them, if I was Margarito, if I was Top Rank, I think I'd really seriously consider suing HBO right now. This has gone on far enough. They're trying to taint, and what it is that those guys, I believe, I don't have any proof of this, but I believe that they're on Golden Boy's payroll, because this is all a Golden Boy thing. It's really revenge for Margarito upending De La Hoya's master plan of, you know, basically riding off into the sunset last year with a sweet victory over Cotto, which is what he thought in his demented mind. Because really what was going to happen, that was the plan basically, is that Cotto would get by Margarito, however, wherever, and then De La Hoya would set up this fight at Dodger Stadium or somewhere big, extravaganza, because Mayweather was out of the picture, he withdrew, and De La Hoya was going to fight Cotto, beat him, and ride off into the sunset on top. That's what was going to happen. But because Margarito upended Cotto, you know, De La Hoya was left with Pacquiao, and look what happened. Death by 1,000 left hands, as Larry Merchant said. So I think that they're really behind this whole conspiracy thing, and they're behind all of this. And HBO's in bed with them, no matter what anybody else will tell you. You'll hear the truth here. Alright, anyway, moving right along, the main event, which got lost in the shuffle, which was you know, one of those ones where you kind of force yourself to keep your eyes open, because it's the same thing happening round after round. Andre Berto versus Juan Urango. Listen, I don't have anything negative to say about Andre Berto. He did exactly what he was supposed to do in this fight. You know, people aren't really lining up to fight him, you notice that? So, I applaud both of them. What I thought was going to happen actually happened. And, you know, Urango will go back down to 140. I mean, it was just basically a free payday for him. And there's, you know, like, I don't know whether it's Bob Papa said, no harm, no foul. It's basically right. I mean, this reminded me a lot of when Marlon Starling moved up to fight Michael Nunn. I didn't think he really had a prayer of a chance in hell of winning the fight. But at the same time, there were spots where you'd think it would be competitive when it really wasn't, and that, you know, it was what it was. And I think Berto, to me, gets an A because he did what he was supposed to do. And, you know, end of story. He ain't going to be getting no big fight anytime soon because he's got to get the Collazo thing, you know, taken care of and make sure he expunges that little bit of doubt from most people's minds. Alright, in the news, really quick. Die All Day, you hit the nail on the head before anybody else broke this story. The Chagaev Valuev fight that was supposed to be last week was called off because the Finnish Athletic Association said that Chagaev did not pass tests. What some reports, I guess confirmed reports have said, kind of under their breath, is that they think that Chagaev has hepatitis B, which I thought was the case some time ago when he pulled out of his fight with Sultan Ibragimov. Mike Alvarado has pulled out of his fight with Paulie Malignaggi due to a hurt elbow. Also in the news that WBC grew some bigger testicles and stripped Vernon Forrest of his WBC junior middleweight title. It's about time. I mean, Martinez is the one fighting and defending the title and doing all these other kind of fights, and Forrest is continuously pulling out of fights. I know Vernon Forrest is a great fighter, a very good fighter, but, you know, that fight was supposed to have happened about 18 months ago. And more importantly, Chad Dawson gave up his IBF title instead of fighting Tavoris Cloud, which I think is a mistake. He's going to fight Glenn Johnson, because Glenn Johnson will always be there. That title, he keeps giving him up. That's going to be it for this show. Next show, preview of what's going on in the next couple of weeks. Thanks, everybody.